We are back, one and all, and we are here with another Johnnie Torch Live. Yes, once again, we take to the airwaves as promised, and we are with you again once more from stately Torch Tower, looking high above another gray and bleak late winter evening. It's about 10 minutes to 6 o'clock here, and we've got the only way to spend your Saturday here with Johnnie Torch Live. Also, of course, tonight we're going to have a Torch News Roundup. I was trying to play the theme song for a moment there in the beginning. I'm not going to edit out any mistakes, but for some reason it's not working. I missed the old theme song. That's in the Hall of the Mountain King by oh gee, I'm usually good at that and I don't remember who composed that little minor masterpiece, but here we are once again. Let's see. We've got both the Torch News Roundup and This Week in Comic Book Television for you this week. But, unfortunately, neither will be very long because we've only got 2 shows to review: the return of Legends of Tomorrow with John Constantine, or Constantine if you wanna be nitpicky about it, and, Black Lightning. Very thin herd of shows this week, which is very disappointing, but it's all to facilitate the Olympics, supposedly, so that you won't compete with their programming. Haven't watched a whole lot of the Olympics. I usually watch the ice skating. I usually watch some of that bobsled stuff. I missed a lot of it this week though, but eh, what are you gonna do? I'm not a sports guy really. And also we have a Torch News Roundup where we're going to go in depth as usual as we do with our trailers, and it's not that easy with this trailer being a 30 odd second trailer, I believe. The Cobra Kai trailer just released, the teaser trailer, where you see the groundwork laid here for the Cobra Kai series, which is going to reunite Ralph Macchio and William Zabka in the roles that made them household names. All of that very exciting later on in the show. We're also going to look at the Greatest American Hero remake that is being proposed on ABC. Eh, I don't know. I don't know what to think of that. We do have the images up this week, so for the past 2 weeks I haven't been able to put images up while we chat about these things, but I managed to find my way around the little technical glitch we had, and we're going to get to that as well. As usual, the chat room is open in case anyone is in fact watching this live, which I'm pretty sure there isn't anybody right now. And we're going to go for about probably a half hour to 45 minutes on the show tonight. I've been teasing on Twitter. If you're not a part of my Twitter page, take a look at the link in the description below, and you will find the link to my Twitter page where you can find a lot of interesting things that we do there. We talk about all kinds of stuff. You get a little brief glimpse of the reviews I'm going to give for the week in comic book television. I try to announce some of the things that's going on in the world of Bullets Bourbon. Tonight we have a big announcement to make. We're going to get to that momentarily. Um, the poll of the week, which is just wrapped up. Uh, I don't have a poll really for this week yet as of today, so don't have that for you, a new one. But for last week's poll, let's take a look at the results. 153 people voted. Thank you very much. That is a large vote for my polls. We have to the Bat polls, a Batman question. Should DC replace the late legendary Adam West and continue making 60s Batman animated features, or should they let that iconic incarnation end with West's passing? An overwhelming 78% of the vote went to no West, no 60s Batman. So a lot of you would prefer not to see the 60s Batman continue on if Adam West cannot portray the Caped Crusader vocally any longer. 22% said new actor, more movies, just continue on with Burt Ward and presumably Julie Newmar, who would still probably take part. But the rest of the cast, the villains and so forth, all have passed on at this point, except for Burt Ward, Julie Newmar, and Lee Merriweather, who also gets, a cameo. in the most recent one. Anyway, but I would like to review that most recent one, Batman versus Two-Face. I've got to get to that pretty soon. I haven't done any real scripted reviews in quite a while now. As you know, I've had difficulty getting that software to work with my new laptop. My old laptop, which I am producing this uh, podcast broadcast on, is slightly more reliable with um, live broadcasts, but not with scripted stuff where I have to edit it heavily and put up images and cut out sound bites and so forth. It's more difficult. So unfortunately, I haven't done it. I had a holiday video prepared back in December, which had to be scrapped because despite working diligently on it, it didn't work. It's difficult because I have to work on my comic book, which is The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon, which you can find a link to my website in the description below. Check it out there for a free preview and character bios to get you acclimated into the world of Bullets Bourbon. But again, my focus is stretched between two endeavors. It's hard for me to get the problems ironed out that I need to with my video career, which has suffered greatly in the past 6 months, along with the comic book endeavors that I have to pay attention to in order to try to get the books out in reasonably decent time. Of course, I only can manage about a book a year, which because I'm doing it basically as one person. I don't have a large staff of people helping me. Of course, if the book is successful, I'd be able to hire more people to get these books out on a more regular basis. But that's all up to you, the viewers. Check out my website and you can find the link to purchase my comics, either a a hard copy or the digital download. Digital download is only 99 cents. And that's quite a bargain. I know that a lot of people are like me and don't go for the digital scene. You want to have a hard copy in your hands. You want to have something you can turn the pages and fold. I'm all for that too. And you can also find those on my website as well. So no poll this week. Big news, big news that I've been teasing on Twitter for the past week. I have a Bullets Bourbon Comics announcement. Yours truly will be appearing at KidsCon 2018 this year at the Radisson Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire on June the 10th. So, very excited to be able to uh, give you a new appearance schedule. We've got some other things in the works. Convention season, it's time to apply for all these places. And the first one I heard back from, of course, is KidsCon, which is catering to the youngest among us. It's going to be for ages 4 to 12. It says on their website. It's basically catered to that demographic. So if any of you have kids and are interested in meeting yours truly, head on over to KidCon June 10th of this year at the Radisson Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I will be there to sign copies of The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon and hopefully have some more goodies to present like I did at the Mice Expo last October. That convention usually, the application date comes up for that in a couple of months. But this one is a little bit sooner in June, so I hope to see you all in the summer, and you can see some of the, exciting stuff that I've been up to, some of the goodies that I've prepared for just such an occasion. But I'd love to see us, and I'm sure you'll recognize me as I'll be dressed as Bullets Bourbon as I did the first day of the Mice Expo, because there's going to be a lot of cosplay at this from what the website says. There's going to be superhero cosplay, Ghostbuster cosplay. They're going to have R2-D2 and BB-8 there, which I'm very excited to meet. So check it out. You can check it out on their website, kidscon.com, and it should be a great time. And I'm excited to announce this convention appearance to you all. All right, so let us move in now and proceed with the Torch News Roundup segment. This is our 80th Torch News Roundup. We've been doing this since last June on a semi-regular basis. Probably it's been about once a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, but we try to do a news update about once a week about the world in superheroes, comics on TV, on the big screen. First, let's go to TV. We've got a story here. In case you're wondering, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will return March 2nd. And the latest is that Carl Creel will be in the returning episode. Carl Creel, as you may remember, is the Absorbing Man, Marvel Comics Absorbing Man, the Incredible Hulk slash Thor villain. I would have loved to seen him face one of them. Of course, I don't think they want to put him in a Hulk movie, or since Hulk will never get a solo movie, they don't want to put him in the movie verse. Since the Hulk movie with Ang Lee pretty much left a sour taste in people's mouths, and they're going to remember him as Absorbing Dad, and they'd rather not have that problem to deal with. So we will see him once again on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anybody interested in seeing the return of the Absorbing Man? I believe he was working for General Talbot last we saw him. He was sort of on the side of the Angels, but well, that's giving Talbot a bit of a generous title. But will he be opposing or aiding our agents as they return from the future? We will soon find out in a couple of weeks. All right, next, um, let's stick with the television side of things, and we'll talk about ABC's Perspective series remake of The Greatest American Hero. Ill-conceived, you might say? Yeah, I'd say. Of course, this is going to be a completely different. It's going to be a remake. It's not going to be in the same universe, I imagine, where the curly-headed William Catt played Ralph Hinckley as the teacher. I haven't actually watched the show in a long time. I was a fan of the show growing up, of course. Um, Watching the reruns seemed to have eluded me. I've seen the pilot movie, which was a lot of fun, of course. Robert Culp, Connie Selica, all co-stars of the show, and I really enjoyed it as a kid. So I really should revisit the series, a classic '80s series. You know how I love '80s series, and this was also one of the best. Here we have Canadian actress model Hannah Simone on the left of the screen there, who will play the new Greatest American Hero in what is being described as a half-hour comedy on ABC. Half-hour comedy? That doesn't really sound like The Greatest American Hero, does it? This sounds like it's going to be a slapstick, kind of lame, if you must know, kind of lame idea. It's developed by the team behind Fresh Off the Boat, which is that half-hour sitcom on ABC. Nanachka Khan and Rashina Fruchborn. And if I'm botching those names, it's completely accidental, but that looks like the way it's written. Okay. It says that she's going to be playing the character Mira, who is a 30-year-old woman from Cleveland whose talents include drinking tequila, singing karaoke, and not much else. All that changes when some aliens entrust her with a super suit to protect the planet. And I must say, if I make any mistakes reading these things, it's because whoever wrote the copy on this description, I don't know where I got this copy from, but it is really littered with literary mistakes. Okay. I don't know. Doesn't sound that great to me. Of course, they're making a big deal over the woman in question here, Hannah Simone, being an Indian actress of Indian descent. Of course, gender switched, race switched. I don't know. It's just, you can't bring back any old concept until you've either race changed or gender changed the character. It seems to be where we are now at this point in time with media and entertainment. I don't know why. You can't bring back the greatest American hero with a guy that looks like the greatest American hero did, as portrayed by William Catt. I guess they wouldn't put that on the air in this day and age. It has to appeal to some other kind of demographic. We have to get the women's demographic. We have to get other races to watch, and they're not going to watch a curly-headed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy wearing spandex and wrecking stuff because he doesn't know what he's doing. We also have more casting news here. The famous George Wendt. Would you eat beans with George Wendt? Is that the Animaniacs routine? That's the only I remember George Wendt from. Of course, he played Norm in Cheers, but I was never big into Cheers. That was on when I was a kid. Didn't really watch that. He's going to play Mira's boss, Bob Rice. I don't know what she does. It doesn't say here. If that means maybe her boss, the Robert Culp role, or is this maybe just going to have nothing to do with that? Probably will have nothing to do with that. Also, Zenoba Shroff will play Lena, Mira's elegant, inscrutable mother. And rounding out the cast, Gia Sandhu will play Mona, Mira's pretty type A sister. Type A. I don't know. I don't understand what that means, but if you understand what that means, write it in the description below, and I will read it probably next week as I read the comments every week. So, what do you think about this? Is this a good idea? Should they just let the greatest American hero rest in peace? You know that that's one of the greatest all-time theme songs to any television show. Everybody loves it. And if you don't love it, you're lying. You know you love it. They use it in commercials all the time. Last time was with Aaron Rodgers, I believe. Was he singing it or was he just lip syncing it or something? But again, I love the Greatest American Hero, the show, the concept, but I don't know. I think you better just let it rest in peace because if you're going to turn it into some kind of dumb sitcom comedy, I think this is their answer to. They're trying to appeal to nostalgia because this is the answer to what they tried to do last year with, it wasn't Demolition Crew. What was the name of it? Oh, Powerless. Which they're just going to try to do some type of office comedy where, the protagonist is going to don the funny looking suit so that nostalgia will rear its head and everybody will be going, wow, greatest American hero costume, wow. And then she'll do some kind of dumb thing and then there'll be more office lame jokes. And, I don't know if I'm even going to bother trying to watch this. I don't know if I'll pay attention when it airs. I mean, I guess for the sake of the channel, because that's kind of my bag, I'll watch at least the pilot, but I'm not making any promises here because this is just completely out of the box, completely overboard with the concept of Greatest American Hero. I don't know. Seeing as it's a half-hour comedy, I don't think they're going to get William Catt involved as like, a mentor and try to be like, when I was the greatest American hero, I remember. No, they're not going to do that. They already said in the synopsis that it's going to be some aliens entrust her with a super suit to protect the planet. This is not going to have anything to do with her finding the suit from William Catt or William Catt passing the torch to her. This is just going to be one of those deals where they're just going to reboot it, hope that the nostalgia brings people in. People will, be up in arms about ruining their childhood, and it'll disappear off the face of the earth within one season. If it makes a full season, I would, as a betting man, lay odds that it won't make a full season. But again, sometimes these things work. I mean, you see, when they brought back uh, MacGyver, the reason why that's working is because they actually cast somebody that looks like MacGyver. They cast a guy that looks like Richard Dean Anderson, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. And, you can have the same kind of argument with Riverdale. You can mess up everything else about a show, but if you got the characters looking like the characters, most people will tune in. That's kind of the rules. I've never seen a largely revamped concept that's worked. I mean, whenever you change the gender and race of a character, you're really not doing yourself any favors. You're not inviting the audience in to something they remember. This is just a new version of something that I used to like. This is not trying to rekindle what I remember and what I liked. That's and a lot of people, producers, they don't understand that for some reason because they just look at it through the prism of we have to appeal to this demographic, we have to appeal to that demographic. In reality, it doesn't work that way. I think a lot of producers are astute enough to understand though that nostalgia is a big selling point. That it certainly was for Star Wars, and that's that is what it is. But anyhow, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you gonna hard pass on Greatest American Hero, or are you gonna give it a shot? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm probably, like I said, gonna just review the pilot and then see where it goes from there. But it looks like a train wreck the size of what Ralph would have done through a brick wall in the original show. All right, so let us move on now. We're gonna go to this is again more of a rumor mill, gossip. Let's put it that way. It's a rumor mill gossip. But there was an interview in Church, as you remember him from Spider-Man 3 as the Sandman, Flint Marko. And don't start saying no crap about Spider-Man 3. I like Spider-Man 3 a lot, and I always will. You can't talk me out of it. But in an interview with Thomas Hayden Church, they asked him if he's going to get back, throw his hat into the ring, as they say, so to speak, and embrace another superhero or supervillain character on the big screen. And he said, I'm not supposed to talk about it. I actually have returned, but not in the Marvel world. It's another world, but it is in that genre of superheroes and supervillains. I'm not supposed to talk about it. It's a movie I shot last year. They're trying to keep it, and good luck to them with, today, man. I'm surprised it hasn't already been revealed. So it looks like Thomas Hayden Church will soon be announced for another superhero film. As a superhero or supervillain, we don't really know as of now. The speculation has been Aquaman because that movie is by and large completed, and he said he shot this film last year. Venom, perhaps. I don't think so, but it would be something if they put Thomas Hayden Church in a Venom movie. Wouldn't that be something? I think that would probably blow people's minds. I'd like to see it. But again, you know, Thomas Hayden Church, his Sandman wasn't bad. A lot of people liked his portrayal of Sandman in that movie. A lot of people's complaints were mostly centered around Venom and sort of how that didn't quite match people's expectations for Venom. But, Thomas Hayden Church, he's not a bad man. He's just had really bad luck. All right, so if you have any speculations on who you think maybe, Thomas Hayden Church is playing in Aquaman, or is it another movie? Let me know in the comments below. Who do you think he's playing? An Atlantean, or maybe the deceased father of no, he's gonna be played by Dolph Lundgren in Aquaman, that's right. So yeah, I don't know who he could be playing in Aquaman unless it's of course, Royal Guard #1 or something like that. I don't think he'd sign up for something like that. But let me know what you think in the comments below for Thomas Hayden Church in his upcoming role. Okay, so we have one more story here in the Torch News Roundup. Of course, we've got the Cobra Kai trailer. Cobra Kai, the YouTube series, 10 episodes, I believe. YouTube Red is going to be. I don't have a release date on this from the information I could find out here. I don't know when this is actually going to be out to be seen, but, you know, as long as there's free trials, I'm always there. So I'm gonna check this bad boy out whenever it's out, whenever I can, because I'm really looking forward to this. And it's sad because it said in the synopsis that this is a comedy. Now the way they portray it in this teaser, it's hard to get a feel for anything with a 38, 40-minute, 40-second teaser, but you feel that the tone of this is very much in keeping with the original Karate Kid trilogy. It does feel like it takes place in that world. It doesn't feel like a sitcom. It doesn't feel like, one of those, live on stage sitcoms is what I was kind of expecting it to be. This looks like a, you know, family drama type uh flavor to it. All right, so let's break down the trailer. It's a fast trailer, so there shouldn't be too much to break down, but we see the All Valley tournament looks very much the same as it did in the 80s. They've got the same tournament board there. We've got the trophies all lined up. And we see apparently Daniel's trophies too, because they're showing like Johnny's trophies from the uh, tournament, and we see Daniel's trophies, which is very different. He's got plaques that say newspaper clippings that say local Valley champ defends title against Karate's Bad Boy, which of course would be Bad Boy Mike Barnes. They're not forgetting him. I like to see Bad Boy Mike Barnes make an appearance in this because he was a member of the Cobra Kai in Karate Kid Part 3. They can't just forget about Karate Kid Part 3. I know it wasn't that great. In fact, it was probably kind of bad, but it's part of the saga, and there were good parts to it. Bad Boy Mike Barnes wasn't bad, and of course, oh, what's his name? Terry Silver, the character. What's his name? Ian Michael Smith. Is that what his name is? I might be getting him mixed up with the guy from Weird Science. Wasn't his name something weird like that? But anyway, he was a good character too, and if they had him make an appearance in the show would be really cool. I would love to see what happened to him. Of course, I think it's one of those things where they don't want to remind you of the lower points of the Karate Kid franchise. Of course, Martin Kove hasn't been announced in the show. I don't know if he's going to make an appearance or a cameo or what they're going to say happened to him. Of course, he lost the Cobra Kai dojo, and if they're going by continuity, both he and Silver reopened the dojo in an attempt to lure Daniel back and sort of disgrace him and ruin him in Karate Kid Part 3. And the other plaque says Mystery Dojo with single student defangs cobras. Yes, that's from the first tournament. So he's got some trophies from the tournaments. I don't know, is he allowed to brag about that? Because Mr. Miyagi wouldn't like that. He didn't like that very much in the Karate Kid Part 3. He didn't want him defending his title, which I thought was I don't know. All right, so Daniel's got the first line. I just don't know why you'd ever want to bring back Cobra Kai. This is a good question because, to be honest with you, I always thought Johnny turned out to be a pretty good kid, especially when he was almost strangled to death by his sensei in the parking lot for losing the match. And of course, he also hands the trophy to Daniel in the you know, aftermath of his loss. He seems like a stand-up guy that, he takes the loss and says, "Yeah, all right, I lost." I don't know if they're gonna go back to sort of the cynical view that a lot of people take, which is he beat Johnny with an illegal move, because a lot of people say that the crane kick was an illegal move. A kick to the face, I guess, is not illegal. I think that's what the complaint is. Maybe they're gonna have that as the reason for his remaining on the dark side, because I don't know why he'd want to still be involved with Cobra Kai after basically almost being killed by its leader. And you can tell that he left in Karate Kid Part 3. He's not in, the Cobra Kai at that point, because it's pretty much everybody abandoned it, because understandably, those kids saw how Martin Kove was basically unhinged. John Kreese was, basically unhinged. And it's understandable that they would bail, I would think. So we see the poster, the Johnny poster. He's recruiting kids. You see him in front of a class. From the back, you see him. We've got the credo of the Cobra Kai there on the wall: strike fast, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. And Johnny says the credo, we do not train to be merciful here. Mercy is for the weak. So they're sticking very clearly with the original vibe of the first movie, which is very good. You want to keep that flavor. You don't want them to feel like they're branching out too much into their own thing. They're feeling like they're really picking up what the Cobra Kai was and just carrying on with it from there. We see Daniel from a distance apparently doing the martial arts moves that he learned from Mr. Miyagi with a girl, I believe. I'm going to say it's a girl because you can't really see, but and he says Daniel's next line is, "You have the moves, but none of that matters unless you have balance," which is again a very Mr. Miyagi type role he's playing here. Of Mr. Miyagi type line that he's playing the role of here, probably to his daughter, I'd imagine, or somebody else that is his student, I think. All right, so also we have a flashback. It looks like to when Johnny first joined the Cobra Kai, which I thought was pretty good. It looks like a late '70s, and he's like 8 years old, and there's like motorcycles in front of the Cobra Kai, and he's looking up at it. That's pretty cool. That looks pretty cool. I think it's going to be fun to see some of Johnny's history. That's why I think this show's called Cobra Kai, because it's more about showing what Johnny's all about, where he came from. Daniel kind of got his character arc through all three movies, really. But I think that's why they're going to focus more on Johnny here, because there's nothing really that Daniel has to learn apart from maybe being a mentor. And of course, the final line is Daniel says, "Johnny, you and I, this we aren't done." So I don't know. Is there going to be a fight between the guys? I would like to see it. I don't know if they're going to go there. They might just want to have this be sort of between their students. Maybe Johnny has students, and I don't know who Daniel would have. His daughter? His daughter's gonna fight in a tournament? I don't know. That doesn't sound like. I don't know if they have unisex tournaments for karate. I'm not sure how that works. So, is that what they're leading up to as a tournament in the end? I don't know. But anyhow, I was very excited for this trailer. I can't wait to see this full series. Hopefully, it's good because, like I said, they were describing it as a comedy. I am hoping it is not really a broad comedy. I mean, of course, like I said, there was humor in the Karate Kid films. It's not that, you know, this really intense brooding drama, but it shouldn't be a slapstick comedy. It shouldn't be Boy Meets World, style humor or something of that nature. So I'm looking forward to this. Got the goosebumps when I seen it, and hopefully it will live up to the trailer. And let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think about Cobra Kai? Is it going to live up to expectation? Don't let me down, Daniel-san. All right, so that is Torch News Roundup number 80. And thank you for watching, and thank you for being a part of it with us. We're now going to switch gears here. We're going to look at This Week in Comic Book Television. We've got only two shows here that made airwaves this week. We've got Legends of Tomorrow returning after a lengthy hiatus, and they're going to run for, I forget, what is it, another month and a half? And then they're going to make way again for Supergirl, who will finish her season. But they're going to finish up their season first. Legends is my favorite of the shows because it's consistently a lot of fun and, doesn't take itself too seriously. All right, so they pick up where we left off last week, or last season, or last year, or whatever it's been, but with John Constantine is back in present day. This was set in 2017 to help a girl that is possessed, because of course that's Constantine's bag. If you don't know anything about Constantine, he's like an exorcist. He's sort of like the DC equivalent of Doctor Strange, except there's not really the sort of Shakespearean trappings, the flair of, you know, capes and pageantry. It's more just him in his trench coat, like a noirish flavor where he confronts the, demonic aspects of the superhero world, which I'm not really a big fan of the concept of mixing the supernatural with superhero concepts. I'm not really big for that. That's why I wasn't a big fan of Constantine the show. I watched the show when it was originally on. I watched every episode. Wasn't that big a fan of it, but I love Matt Ryan. He's really, really good. He's really cool. He's really captivating in this role. he's really a strong presence, and that's kind of the reason why I would like to see him stay on the show, just for his, you know, demeanor. His behavior is really fun to watch. Although I don't really want to see that kind of stuff, and I don't really see where he would be helpful to them on a weekly basis. But when you think about it, how many times do we see the atom shrink? How many times did we see Firestorm light up? How many times do we really need to see Constantine exercising a demon? We really don't. He could just be on the show just for moral support. Maybe, I don't know. All right, so he joins Sarah, and they go to help out this girl who's being possessed. Now, this girl turns out to be Nora Dark when she was younger. Uh, she's more recently been portrayed by Brandon Routh's hot wife. Now, she looks a little bit old, Nora, really, to because this is 2017. When did that stuff happen with her father getting killed? Wasn't that 2015? And she was like 10, 11 years old, and here she looks like she's about 15. So it's like a 5-year time jump to me. But I mean, it's probably she probably was older than she was appeared to be in the first, appearance of her in Arrow season 4. But with 2 years passing, she looks like she jumped 5 years. I don't know, maybe I don't know. All right, so meanwhile, we've got Captain Cold is still on the Wave Rider. This is, of course, the Earth X Captain Cold. I have no idea why he's still on the Wave Rider. Let's call it what it is. It's basically Wentworth Miller's farewell tour. He's appearing on I believe, all 3 shows. I don't think he's on Supergirl because that's another universe or something. And of course, they want to have him bid farewell to Mick in this episode. And he sort of confirms what we knew all along, that Ava has a crush on Sarah and that they're eventually going to hook up. Inevitably, we knew this from the beginning. Every single time they put, a woman on the show, she has to get with Sarah. Now, the thing that bugs me about that is because consistently, every single male co-star that Sarah has on the show, she has much more chemistry with. And yet they consistently put her with other women. And before you say anything, she's been established to be bi all this time. She's not a lesbian. They would make you think she's a lesbian pretty much by the way they've only partnered her up with women, but she's supposed to be bi. She was Oliver's girlfriend. She had great chemistry with him there. She had great chemistry with Rip, I thought. I thought there could have been a relationship there. Of course, the first season where they had the most contact was marred by the fact that he was trying to save his wife and child. So obviously he wasn't in a romantic mood. In the next season, I thought last season she had great chemistry with Nate. I thought if they chose to, they could have gone somewhere with that, but they chose not to, of course, for political reasons. She had decent chemistry with Nissa, but I always found that sort of off-putting because even though the two actresses had pretty good chemistry, Nissa sort of always regarded her sort of as a pet, which was kind of, a little strange, a little off-putting because she's sort of like a pampered princess, Nissa. And then she came across when there was a schism between her and Roz, or Raish, if you prefer. That's when she sort of didn't seem that entitled, but anyway, so sparks fly here between her and John Constantine, which was very welcome. She had great chemistry with Matt Ryan here as well. And you know, I just liked their rapport. It was really great. I don't know, they're probably not going to be able to do anything with this in the future going forward because I don't think they're going to use Constantine again. This, of course, is the second time Constantine has been used after his show has been canceled, and the first time being when Sarah was actually resuscitated by Constantine. So they do have this history, which was what I thought was cool. Is how it played into that history. They both have this like darkness that they worked through. They uh, recalled the original episode of Constantine where he failed a young girl, a child, and she was taken over by a demon and basically taken to hell or something. And it's kind of heavy stuff, but I mean, they didn't forget it, and this is sort of where he's feels like he's failed, and with Sarah, she's already seen the dark side too by being you know, revived by the Lazarus pit and being little more than an instinctive animal for a time there on the show. All right, so that was good. I like that. You know, she's been through darkness, he's been through darkness. They had a good rapport, and I really would like to see more of that. It sort of, works between them two because of what they've both been through. Because they have that in common, that he basically was the one that saved her life. I could buy it that something would be happening between them. All right, so also in the meanwhile, we also have uh Kuasa, the water-powered warrior. There shows up to fight Vixen, and for no reason, apparently, Captain Cold doesn't help dispatch her, but he gives the cold gun to Nate, and Nate ends up freezing her, and they keep her prisoner on the Wave Rider. Meanwhile, um, Vixen, I can't remember her name. Was it Amaya? She can't, leave her granddaughter in a frozen state, so she revives Kuasa and tries to have a, conversation, a heart to heart, tries to get them to, you know, reconcile to some extent. I'm gonna go through this subplot and finish it up right here. But anyhow, so Kuasa ends up trying to drown Nate when Nate enters and tries to, fearing something's going to happen between Kuasa and Amara. Um, and so Kuasa tries to drown him until Vixen talks her out of it and tries not to see each other as enemies anymore. So, we'll see how that is. All right. So, meanwhile, they try to exercise Nora, but it doesn't work. And Mollis, who is apparently the Dormammu of the DC universe, zaps Captain Cold, Constantine, and Sarah to 1969 in the same medical establishment here. Uh, One of the funniest parts of the episode was Nick trying to watch football. He hadn't had a chance to watch football in a long time, and everybody is bothering him. I just missed Mick so much. So when I seen that, I couldn't help but just have this big smile on my face. And he assigns everybody their jobs. He's like, "Just get away from me, get out of my hair." And it was really funny. He's sort of like the cranky uncle, I guess, on the show. So Mollis wants Sarah, who doesn't. Woo-hoo. And she's rattled because he's like trying to take her over. And that's kind of where we are and why Constantine is sort of trying to be a I'm still rattled myself thinking of that, but trying to be sort of a anchor for her, I suppose, is the best way to look at it, so that she doesn't fear slipping back into his power. Meanwhile, Ray and Isis spring Nora from you know the joint, and they take her to Jitters. She ends up spazzing out and having a episode there of trying to be repossessed. And so, meanwhile, back in 1969, Snark gets caught. Sarah and John help him, and they confront Mollis at the same time as he's possessing Nora. And to make a long story short, Sarah manages to avert Mollis's possession and you know d- takes it upon herself, the possession, and uses that to send them back to 2017. Something like that. It's kind of hard to explain. All right, so then at the very end, in Jitters, of course, a lot of things happen in Jitters when you're when you're on CW. Dark collects Nora and sends her off with someone who's apparently going to turn her into the witch that she becomes when she gets older. So, kind of all their efforts, talking about Ray and Isis, are for naught. Then another one of the funny things is it's like a meta joke where Constantine is unable to light up the whole time. He's got a cigarette that he's trying to light desperately, and he can't get it lit because he can't get a match. And he can't get, a light from anybody. And thankfully, and then that's kind of meta because, like I said, the big thing on network television is for some reason smoking is anathema. You can, have drugs and drinking and killing and some fooling around, but smoking, you do that, and oh boy, that's it. You're blacklisted. You're not on TV no more. So they kind of had that joke going on, but then he lights up at the end of the show. So that was cool that they let him actually light up at the end of the show. Of course, that was a source of consternation during the original Constantine show. Was they had him smoking very infrequently, very few and far between because they didn't want the controversy that you can't smoke and that makes the ratings go higher, that it's, instead of being a 14, you might be a, rated M for mature. It's just gotten out of hand, really, the whole smoking business. But anyway, so John says to Ray that Sarah will be possessed and that she won't be able to resist Mollis at the end of it, which you would kind of think that maybe he would stay if he felt this strongly about this, but he instead tells Ray to have his anti-magic gun that he's working on and have that ready at the time. Meanwhile, Snart leaves. He finally bids his fond farewell to move on to bigger and better things. You know what really bugs me? I was hoping that Snart would stick around for the disco episode that's on next week, I believe, where they're going to go back to the 70s, and this time they're not going to be in the, you know, Captain and Tennille era. They're going to be later in the 70s in the disco era. And I would love, my dream is to see Mick and Snart doing a duet of Earth, Wind, and Fire's Jungle Boogie. can't you can't you just imagine that? That would be the greatest thing ever. The world would not be ready for that, you know? Jungle Boogie. Got a boogie. He got a boogie. That would be too much. That would be too much. Maybe they could still do it with Mick and the rest of the cast as a chorus, maybe, and not have Snart. But Snart would have been funny doing that part. And maybe the rest of the chorus, have Nate and Ray and I don't know who else do the chorus. That would be funny. I want to see that. I want to see that in the worst way, but unfortunately. All right, so this was a pretty cool episode. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. Like I said, don't really like demon possession and that crap in my stuff, but you know, when you put it in as well as they managed to work it in this episode, it works. I am going to give Legends of Tomorrow for this week. I'm gonna give it episode of the week, but there's only 2 episodes, to review this and Black Lightning, so that's probably not a huge feat, but it's worthy of it. I'm gonna give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. That's 4.5 stars out of 5 for Legends of Tomorrow this week. Let me know what you think about this week in Legends of Tomorrow in the comments below. Did you like seeing Constantine again? Do you think he should come back? Do you think he should be a regular? Obviously, they're going to have Wally as a regular, which I think is a good idea. I mean, I said that from the beginning because I think 2 speedsters in Central City is, you know, one of them's unnecessary. Of course, actually, he could have been more useful this season on The Flash, seeing as how Barry's been languishing in prison and pretty much languishing here, there, hither, thither, and yon all season. But that's a whole nother story. But let us move on now to our other episode of the week, Black Lightning. I've really enjoyed the show, with the exception of one episode. The show has been, pretty reliably entertaining. The Sid will talk about that again this week. And unfortunately, the CW doesn't know how to do too many shows without being heavy-handed. I mean, Supergirl's heavy-handed, Black Lightning's heavy-handed. We've got parts of Arrow are heavy-handed. Flash and Legends are, I think, the most removed of heavy-handedness, and I think that's the reason why they're probably the most popular. Arrow's not too heavy-handed, but they seem to be trying so hard to be dark and, like, gritty that they're not very pleasant, and it's sort of like I think that's where it's heavy-handed. It's not so much heavy-handed in the SJW politics as much as it's heavy-handed in the, well, we have to make things miserable for Oliver, and we have to make sure that someone's trying to kill his wife and son and whatever. I don't know. But lest I digress, let's see. Black Lightning this week. This was fun. We see Black Lightning. He's practicing flying with this new kind of repulsor technology. Makes him look like Iron Man. And they actually, I don't know if you noticed it, but they have a Ferris wheel in the background. Come on, that was a blatant, uh, you know, shout out to Iron Man. Because remember the first time he's testing the Iron Man armor and he sees the circus wheel or the Ferris wheel, and there's like some kind of carnival or something going on. And the same thing kind of happens here. So you could tell that that was a tribute. That was a little aside from the DC creators there to Marvel. All right, so Black Lightning stops what he's doing with his practicing to stop some drugged up kid from getting shot by the cops. Again, this is not really too much of a problem for me, this issue, because I understand. I mean, what Black Lightning says is, oh, try tasering him first. Because it seems like it is a real life problem where a lot of cops seem like they draw the gun first, and it makes you wonder what's the taser for, really? I mean, why don't they go to the taser first? Why does it seem like it's always the gun? And that's why you're always hearing some kid got killed because of some stupid altercation that should have been resolved because the kid was either unarmed or, it happens all the time. And so, I mean, I didn't find that too heavy handed, although there is more heavy handed things in the episode. We'll get to that in a moment. Now we got Tobias Whale here. Tobias Whale, he comes to Gamby and wants to know who Black Lightning is. Now, apparently, he knows there's some connection between them two. I found this scene fascinating. It might be my favorite scene of the episode, although it's just a very brief scene. But Gamby said that Whale has a serum that keeps him young or something. So this is interesting. I don't know. You would think that it has to do with giving him powers. I don't know necessarily that it means that he's young because we know he has like strength. We've seen him crush Lala in the jail and stuff. But what is this about keeping him young? Because is he supposed to be as old as Gamby? Because I mean, really, the actor here that plays Tobias is probably not much older than. I mean, he's not much younger than Cress Williams. I mean, Cress, I don't know how old he is. I would guess he's like 48, 49, 50. And Tobias, I would guess, would be like 45, 46. I mean, so if they're trying to say, well, he's a contemporary of Jefferson, but he doesn't look his age, I would argue he doesn't look too much younger. I mean, that's just the way it is. Sometimes, you look a little young for your age or a little old for your age. All right. So one of the subplots here was Anissa trying to find out about her powers, and she goes to I guess a friend of the family, and he's sort of the Ben Urich of the show. It's like he knew about her grandfather, and apparently her grandfather, I don't know, was killed, I guess, because he was working on some kind of thing. This, I think, is what's going to tie into the origin. As I said before, we don't really know the origin of Black Lightning in this show, and I don't know because I never really read about him in the comics. So I don't know where he gets his powers from, and this is probably going to tie into that eventually. So we get into that. Meanwhile, we find out Jen can fight because Jefferson taught her how to fight, and she dusts off two girls in the skating rink who are giving her trouble. So then we have Jefferson in an altercation in the drugstore, and he freaks out somewhat. And this is where we find, again, this was another one where it was kind of heavy-handed, but I think we've all been there where it's something stupid like you having a dispute with a clerk at a customer service center, and they're always giving you the business, like, and you try to say, well, look, this is very easily rectified if you would just, you know, the customer's always right. If the customer wants a refund or something, as long as it's something, doable, you can't eat a loaf of bread and then say, I want my money back for a loaf of bread. But, obviously with something like this, where the guy was trying to get money for his, get medicine for his child, you would think it's something that we could work out. But And Jefferson kind of freaks out about that, and then later on realizes, look, I can't, freak out with the manager of the drugstore, whatever. That's an abuse of power. In other words, if he was to do that. Then we have this is the one. And that's like, three strikes. All right, that was okay. The thing about the taser was okay. Three strikes. This one I thought was heavy-handed. Now they have the white guy with a shotgun, while because Black Lightning is looking through the barrels of the what is it, green light? That's like the new drug that's out there that's giving these kids the superpowers and makes them a little cuckoo. So this guy looks like a 1945 Nebraska farmer, and he's like, saying some racist stuff again that I'm not going to repeat. That's what happens on the show a lot. I find myself not repeating a lot of what they say. But and Black Lightning sort of dusts him off mildly. He doesn't really even break a sweat naturally. But that's kind of what bugs me too, is that this guy, there's not too many white guys in the show as it is, but I mean, and, he's a racist or something, but you really wouldn't be mouthing off like that to a superhero, even if, you know, you were a bad guy or a racist guy or whatever, because don't you think the guy with a lightning suit that's lighting up, that's right in front of you, that's like 6.5 feet tall, I wouldn't be mouthing off to that guy if I was him. And, it just seemed like it was just another excuse to be trying to throw more social relevance and the race card and stuff. I don't know. I thought that was the third strike, and I was like, nah, this is a little too much. Dial it back down a little bit now, okay? All right, so this was probably the interesting thing here. We had some flashbacks to Tobias Whale's abusive father, and it was very well shot. It's like he sort of like finds himself transported back there, and his sister is young, and the father is younger, but he's like still his grown up age while he's reliving the scene, and that was I thought it was really cool. Then they go to meet this father, and I thought this was a little bit too much, because it didn't make no sense to me that all of a sudden, if Tobias had this abusive slash racist father, why didn't he kill him earlier? You would think, I mean, if you're gonna kill him, you would have done it when you were being abused, or maybe right after you were being abused. But he sort of waits like 20 years and then decides, maybe now I'll kill him. I don't know. I mean, memories die hard, but don't you think if you had the impetus to do something like that, you would have done it before? Kind of strange. I also find it strange that now apparently this is his blood father and this is his blood sister. I'm beginning to think that Tobias Whale's supervillain name is going to be White Chocolate, because obviously he don't look anything like them, but we don't see their mother, so I don't know. Maybe he takes after the mom, she takes after the dad, the brother and sister here. I don't know, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that turns out. But I'm still stymied by that situation. It was almost the same thing with on Gotham when they had Tabitha and her brother was Galavan, and it was like, well, they're both different races. They both don't look alike, but then again, are they blood relatives? They never explained it, and I don't know if they're going to explain it here. I would like to hear an explanation, because it seems, very blatantly, you know, confusing. I don't know. All right. So meanwhile, Jeff passes out, and Gamby calls his wife, and Jeff wants Joey Toledo, and he wants to get back into the game because he wants to catch him. Now, this is the thing that I'm kind of confused about. Now, we don't really know what's causing this. Apparently, Black Lightning's not on any drugs, because this kind of mood swings thing seems like it's what green light does to its victims. But he doesn't seem to have that, and I think I've heard the presupposition is that it's because of his age. He's starting to get these attacks where mental instability. I don't know how true that is, but that doesn't make a bit of sense to me. I have no idea where they're going with this, and I hope they clarify it in the coming weeks. Um, so Jen gets in trouble for defending herself against her attackers. I thought this was also a little too much, a little heavy-handed. Like, you can't defend yourself. There is another way. Well, sometimes there's not always another way. And because she broke the wrist of the girl, and you think there's going to be this big confrontation because the woman comes in with her daughter and the aunt or whatever, and She basically diffuses the situation, the mother. But I don't know. It seemed to me that the mother there, I don't remember what's her name, Lynn. She didn't seem to hear the both sides of the story. You know what I mean? She didn't hear all sides. She sat there and listened to them and sort of placated them. But then Jennifer really didn't get a chance to really have much of a say in the whole thing. It was, it was basically she was wrong. And, Jefferson treated her a little bit more fairly, but it's sort of the thing like just fighting back is wrong. I don't know if that's the message you're supposed to be receiving from this, but that's what it seemed like. All right, so Henderson now, Henderson being the police chief, I had a feeling they were making him a race changed character from Superman, and they confirmed that. I've read since then. The actress that plays his wife confirmed that he is Inspector Henderson from the comics. Now, you remember from the old 1950s TV show of Superman, he was played by a white actor. So it's supposed to be a white actor. This would have been a great chance to have more diversity in the show because we're talking about diversity, there's not enough white actors in the show. I mean, we got two, we've got one who's a villain and we've got one that's a good guy. Would have been nice to see another white character in the show that was originally white because you don't race change characters. I don't believe in it. But he gives Henderson what he called the black signal. It's of course another tribute to Batman, and that's fun. To think that perhaps Batman exists in this world. We don't really know yet. Of course, they're being coy with it, but this might be set in the Arrowverse. It might be set on another Earth, the same way that Supergirl is. We don't know yet. We see Jeff hitting the bag. Reminded me of John Wesley Shipp in the original Flash TV show. That was sort of the Flash's physical practice exercises, and he does the same thing here. Like I said before, he's a boxer, basically Black Lightning in the fighting style that he uses. So that's cool that we got to actually see that. Maybe the suit is what's making him have anger issues and fainting. He threatens Gamby for the suit's power source, which I thought was also, that's wildly out of character for a superhero. I mean, that's like Batman threatening Alfred for something that he's gonna pummel him if he doesn't do it. I thought that was bad and needs to be explained. So Black Lightning goes after Toledo, but gets his butt kicked due to his condition worsening. And the kid that kicks him up, well, not a kid, but I mean, the guy that beats him up and kicks his butt really just looks like a shrimp. I don't think this guy could have really beat Black Lightning if it wasn't for the situation, of course, that he's going through with the health issue. But the thing is as I said, we need to give Black Lightning a physical challenge. We need a formidable opponent. And if you don't, then you come up with this scenario, which is, a physical ailment is what keeps the hero at the same level of his adversaries. That's the same thing they did with the Flash in the original 90s show until they wised up and realized you are not going to have much fun with the Flash if the only thing you can do is keep him having headaches so that he can't run fast and his mortal enemies are he's brought down to the level of his mortal enemies. You need to take that away from the Flash. You need to take the powers of the Flash away from the Flash if it's always going to fight as bikers and thugs. And that's basically what they're doing here. They're going to take away Black Lightning's power so that he can fight thugs and punks. That's not what you do. You bring in the supervillains. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at this. I think they have to really start giving us a. I understand what they're trying to do with the social justice warrior crap. We don't need that every week. Give us a good villain the way the Flash did, so that there's a challenge for the hero. And you can still do the social relevant episodes. You can still do the important stuff, but give the hero a worthy villain. And of course, Tobias Whale's a good villain, but he's not going to lock horns with him until like the end of the season, sort of like a Daredevil Kingpin situation, I imagine. Oh, and also we got Anissa putting on a costume. That was fun to see her shopping for the costume. It's good to see a superhero enjoying being a superhero, and that's kind of what we got with her in those scenes. That was fun. The costume looked pretty good actually, but they're obviously going to upgrade it so that she has a more modern looking thing and not just the spandex. All right, so I'm going to give Black Lightning this week. I also thought I have to mention that I thought the the age makeup on Tobias' father looked terrible. He looks like, I don't know, he couldn't even open his eyes or something because they tried to give him like this old age makeup. It looked terrible. Um, I'm gonna give it 4 stars out of 5. Very a strong episode, a couple of setbacks here and there, but still relatively strong. So I'm gonna give this one 4 stars out of 5 for Black Lightning this week. Okay, as you can tell, we've been at it for about an hour, and I'm gonna start losing my voice. Maybe I'm not used to doing hour shows yet. No, I think I am. All right, so that's about all we have for you this week on the only way to spend your Saturday here with us on Johnny Torch Live. Thank you for joining us. Oh, we've got viewer questions or comments, I should say. So I'll get to them briefly. Our first comment of the week we have is from Bamboo Bamboo Bamboo, which is one of our longtime friends to the show. He's talking about our last episode, which was the Venom trailer review. And he says, I'm still not sure about the Venom movie. He's one of my favorite Spidey villains, and I think that's how he works best. I would agree. I don't know how you do a Spidey villain without Spidey, especially someone of the caliber of Venom. And he continues, I was never really interested in his solo anti-hero stuff in the comics. Yeah, me too. I could be turned around on the movie, however. If anyone can make it work, Hardy can. And it's true, yeah. That's I think that's pretty much the selling point so far of the movie. I mean, once we see Venom in action with the CGI and stuff, we'll probably have a better feeling for it. But they're really selling the movie on Tom Hardy right now, and of course that's a solid sell. I mean, if you're gonna put this kind of movie in anybody's hands, it's safest hands is Tom Hardy. All right, we've got another one here I just got today. Another comment from a viewer, Chris H, in regards to my Wonder Woman retrospective. Another very popular video, if you haven't checked that out, the Wonder Woman TV show retrospective. And he says, Deborah Winger's Wonder Girl was being planned for a spin-off series, but Deborah fought her way out of the contract. I did not know that. From what I understood, I think, uh, I try not to deal in hearsay, like the issue of Linda Carter not getting along with Lyle Wagner. I didn't make a big issue of that in the video because it's kind of hearsay. I think Wagner's wife made comments that she and he didn't get along, but I didn't want to put that in the video. In the same respect, I think from what I understand, Winger was supposed to reappear on the series in, a recurring role, but Linda Carter semi admitted this in the interviews on the DVD sets. So this is not unsubstantiated, but she said something along the lines of she felt that she was not being, as special. Wonder Woman was, meant to be the star, and to have a sidekick with the same powers was sort of taking the shine off of Wonder Woman. And if you read between the lines, I think you pretty much get the gist of it that she kind of didn't want to get the spotlight stolen from her, Linda. Actors, actresses, what are you going to do? That's kind of the bit. All right, going back to what Chris H said. Also, Diana worked for the IADC, the Interagency Defense Command, not IDAC, as you mentioned in the video. Well, they did call it IDAC on the show, if I, remember correctly. They called it IDAC. Now, I do remember them saying the Interagency Defense Command, but they did call the corporation or the agency IDAC for short. So I don't know if you're saying that I'm wrong in this, but I'm not. So I don't know. Okay, and also he says, also the villain's name is excuse me. Also, the villain's name is pronounced Formicida, not Formicida. Dude, really? Really? You're gonna take me to task on how to pronounce some kind of, I don't know, is that biology? That's like ant biology because you know how hard I had to study to find out how to pronounce that word. Do you know that that word is almost never spoken? I think on the show, on the episode where they say that, they might have said it like 2 times. And I basically had to say it phonetically, like whoever the actor or actress was that I got it from the episode. I remember literally rewinding the DVD until I found somebody saying the word Formicida, and maybe it's Formicida, but from the way I heard it on that episode, it's Formicida. So blame the director of that episode, Formicida. And you know how many times I had to try to find the term Formicida? Oh, and you can even hear on that the audio on that a couple of times. You could tell it's re-recorded because I had to try to touch up some of the words that I didn't know if I was pronouncing right. I thought I pronounced that one right, Formicida. Eh, I don't know. You're being a little bit of a grammar Nazi there, Chris. Also, when I was doing the part with Rene Auberjois, especially the way I say that, it's because I had to find, like, on YouTube, I had to find a video of Renee being interviewed for, like, Good Morning America or something in the '90s, because although I'm very familiar with him, and he was on Deep Space Nine, and, he was in a lot of things, guest starring as, in, Batman, the animated series, and, on Wonder Woman, I never really heard his last name being said, so Rene Auberjois. I take it I got that correct at least, Chris? All right. He says otherwise fun video with, let me see, how many explanation points? Exclamation points, probably about 8. I can't count them right now. But anyway, so I'll take it that he liked the video and he wasn't just trying to bust my chops. Okay, Chris, there you go. Thanks for writing, I guess. Anyhow, all right. So if you want any of your comments read, just comment on any of my YouTube videos and I read my viewer comments, especially if they're good. And if they're not good, I read them anyway, I guess. But and check me out on Twitter. You can always find a good conversation to be had there. We're always talking about stuff, good, bad, right, wrong. Who knows? We talk about it all, and it's exciting times here because Black Panther will be coming. Well, it's already out now, but I will be seeing it on Tuesday, and I will try to have a video for you up on Wednesday because we try to do live shows Wednesdays and Saturdays. Sometimes the schedule moves around a bit. Sometimes I do a video on Sunday or a Monday instead of Wednesday, and I would like to try to see if I can get a scripted video made for that. Again, I will give it the good old college try, but if I can't get a scripted video up, we'll do a live broadcast. Live broadcasts are fun, but the problem with it is there's nobody watching live, so there's almost no reason for me to be doing these shows live if nobody's going to watch live. And comment on the chat room and so forth. All right, so I will give you my impressions of Black Panther on Wednesday. Uh, I'm hoping it's going to be good. I'm hearing nothing but good things about it. Uh, some of the reviews, the only minuses I've heard is that it's slow moving at times and doesn't have enough action at times. I hope that's not the case. I hope I don't feel that way. I'm not sure if I will, but my predictions, such as they are, I would hope that this film follows suit with Thor, because I'm in the same place here as I was with Thor, where I don't know a whole lot about the character. I know him basically from Avengers. I am not fully aware with his background or origins. I know little about his villains. I only know Claw. I only knew a little bit about Loki. I know that there is, a grand royal family that's involved. And so what I'm hoping is that what I liked about Thor is going to be what I like about Black Panther, that it's this grand Shakespearean stage that is about family and power struggles and having the crown being placed on your head and the kind of weight, the responsibility that puts on you. That's the stuff I'm hoping I'm going to see with Black Panther, because Thor, like I said, I knew little to nothing about Thor, and it's in my top 10 favorite comic book movies. I think it's in my top 5 favorite Marvel MCU movies. And I think the worst case scenario is still pretty good, which is that it's going to be on par with Doctor Strange, that it's going to be on par with Ant-Man, because those are also characters that I didn't know a whole lot about, but from what I knew about them, the characters, the movie delivered. The movie served up what I wanted in a Doctor Strange movie. The movie delivered what I wanted in an Ant-Man movie. So I am sure that even if it doesn't really like, please me on the grandest scale, it'll probably still feel like the best representation of a Black Panther movie that we could get because Feige knows what he's doing and he gets the job done. Let's put it that way. Oh, okay. So, all right. Once again, thank you for joining us for Torch News Roundup number 80 and for Johnny Torch Live number 54. Yes, number 54, Johnny Torch Live. Thank you for joining us on the only way to spend your Saturday here with us on Johnny Torch Live. This is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep that flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.